Well, all right. So let's do kind of a news type video for the entertainment world and just for the world at large right now. We'll start off with a bit of wrestling news. So AEW's been shut down. They're like, all right, we're done. Their most recent taping, the police did show up to make sure they had proper permits. They did, so that was all a-okay. What AEW is telling us is we've got enough material to go on for weeks or months if we need to. They've been filming like crazy, apparently all over Georgia, filming. So they have matches and storylines that they can do for months. And not only that, but you have to think that even if they're not doing in-ring segments, they've proven, the elite has proven for a long time they can do segments where they're at home, segments with their webcam, with their phone, and that they can do a very well done story for a long time. It may be to AEW's benefit that for ages before they had a weekly show, they would be doing stuff online. They would be doing YouTube videos. They're kind of built for this. WWE really isn't. They're in this whole other situation where WWE's just been this major corporation for a long time. So if WWE gets shut down, I would expect more clip shows. Now the ratings for AEW and WWE were both really low this week for Dynamite and for NXT, and this is honestly because everybody's just watching the news right now. And I've seen YouTubers talking about their numbers being down. My numbers have been down, and I know that's a big part of it. We are focused on the news and on the all of the stuff that's going on around us, and we do need to be aware of that. There is a point though where it kind of turns into an obsession, and that can be tough. And I'm speaking from experience. Where remember I did a video yesterday where I said, "Hey, I can't today," and that can happen where you're like, I just can't function because of all of this information I'm taking in and just the weight of this. Now, on to Disney/Star Wars news. I'm excited about the High Republic. I know, people are still mad about Rise of Skywalker and didn't like the movie and blah 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 blah. I liked Rise of Skywalker. Did it make any sense? No, really didn't. But it's not the first time that Star Wars hasn't made sense. Ewoks beat up stormtroopers, and logs did in the ATSTs. Like, just there are a lot of things, and how did they set all that up? How long did that take? So there are a lot of things with Jedi even that I was like, what? And Empire, there was a lot of stuff that didn't make, and I've been through that. There's a video on the channel here about how Empire Strikes Back. It's easy to tear it apart. Very, very easy to tear Empire Strikes Back apart and say, no, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. When you look at it from a military standpoint, I'm not saying the storyline itself is okay, but the military, no. So while we can all agree that there are storylines in the new trilogy that you sort of look at and go, I guess that happened. In the original trilogy and in the prequels, there are times where, from a military standpoint, it just doesn't make any sense. But I'm excited about the High Republic, which is set 200 years before Phantom Menace, so there's no Skywalkers. There's none of that going on. Yoda could be in here, of course. Yoda was around for a very long time. And so books are on the way. So they're going to have novels and comic books, and they're going to introduce us to these new characters. And eventually those characters will end up on the big screen. The idea is going to be simple. Build up these characters, build up through comics, and maybe through fan feedback, maybe through feedback between writers, they decide these characters are strong and we can put them on the big screen and we end up with a new Star Wars trilogy. I have a feeling the Rian Johnson one doesn't happen. And I know the last time I heard from Rian Johnson on it, I don't mean me personally, I just mean he posted on Twitter, was that no, it's still happening. They're still doing a trilogy. But I don't know, with the way that Last Jedi was received and just the fact that his trilogy is kind of backdoored through Last Jedi with that whole Canto Bight scene. So the idea of profiteering off of the war and that both sides are in on it and this whole seedy underbelly of how the war is fought. And that's kind of his idea for bringing in a new trilogy. And I'm not really all that interested in that. I'm not. I mean, I just, if that's going to be a trilogy, I'm not really all that into it. I would have been more interested in a trilogy of the characters that were in Rogue One, but for obvious reasons that can't happen. So, Jyn Erso in particular, I think could have been a great character if they'd really fleshed the character out, but better not to bother, I guess. Phantom Menace, 200 years prior, We have Star Wars, the High Republic, and this is along the ideas of during the heyday of the Republic, of peace in the galaxy, and moving out into the Outer Rim. So the Outer Rim, and I guess it's going to be some kind of brushback that the Republic gets from the Outer Rim, and I don't know how you're going to portray that and not have the Republic kind of look like dicks. I mean, think about it, right? They're this big advancing power going out into the Outer Rim. So if it's going to be the idea of them taking worlds in to join the Republic, if it's voluntary, great. If it's kind of a you're in the Republic, no, we're not. Yeah, you kind of sort of are. Then they're going to look like they're jerks. Which I always thought the Republic kind of did, anyways. I mean, if a world doesn't want to be in the Republic, then let them go. Yeah. Anyways, well, that's a whole other argument for a whole other time. Black Widow's been pushed back to November. And this is exactly what I talked about the last time when it came to the Marvel movies. This pushes all of Phase 4 back. This pushes everything Marvel back. And substantially back. So now the Eternals is set for February of next year for a release date. And yeah, so everything kind of gets pushed backwards. And we'll see how this works for Marvel. Now, if you've been at home and you're like, hey, I want to do a teleconference, you want to do it on Zoom, there are some major security flaws on there. There are some hacking concerns. And yeah, security concerns in general. And Zoom's working to fix them. And I've kind of made up my mind to hold off on doing a lot of stuff with Zoom until they fix it. I wanted to have a level on my Patreon where we could do like Zoom conference calls, especially in this age where we're kind of all stuck and isolated and on our own. But I don't want to do that if those calls are going to be perhaps hijacked or hacked or whatever else. I don't want to be dealing with that. And I mean, I know not to make them public and all this other stuff, but apparently there are a lot of security flaws with Zoom's software and just with them in general. And then there's questions about what their terms of service does and what information of yours they can get without you necessarily knowing they're getting it. So I until those security flaws are fixed, I don't know. I guess Google Hangout works, but Google Hangout's not necessarily fantastic either. The one good thing is that with nighttime talk show hosts and seeing how their calls go, their calls aren't any better than mine. I've always felt bad, because if I do calls and stuff on the internet, the quality's not very good. But I look at these late night hosts and theirs, and I'm like, man, no, it's just about the same. The other thing that's come out, and I think this has been kind of really eye-opening for me, is that some of these night show hosts, without that crowd and without that interaction, they just look lost. They look absolutely lost. And I do wonder how long we can keep this up before you start to see ratings probably start to drop, and or some kind of a change in format. So whether that means just going to a bunch of reruns for a while until they figure something out, or something else where maybe they're taped on a Monday and broadcast on a Wednesday, something so they can, gus it up with some more effects or something. They're going to have to do something, because they're just not very entertaining. They're informative more than they're entertaining, and that's not supposed to be the way that it works. Really isn't. So we'll see what happens with that. Funko Pops. So Funko Pops, I have a bunch of Funko Pops, of course. One thing that I don't like about Funko Pops, and one of the reasons I don't collect them as much as I used to, was I got tired of going into EB Games, go to the wall of Funko Pops, and look at the new releases and go, oh, that's a spoiler for that movie. That's a spoiler for that movie. Oh. And then reading online too, Funko Pop's ruin, and it's come out today too that they're revealing the villain for this movie and that, and it's they do this. They make it so that you know what's going to happen. Captain Marvel in particular, the Flurkin. So if you've watched Captain Marvel, the highlight for you, even if you don't necessarily like the movie, is probably the cat, which becomes a Flurkin. Actually, it was always a Flurkin. And there was a Funko Pop that revealed this, that made it clear that something was different about the cat. So if you're watching the movie and you know that plot twist, it's not funny. I mean, it's still funny, but it wouldn't be as funny. And that's a problem with Funko Pops. Now, I don't know how you fix that, because honestly, Funko Pops are fun little collectibles, and they have to know what goes on in the movies so they can manufacture them. I don't know if you make it so that the Funko Pops come out a couple of months after the movies do, which of course would kind of kill the sales for them. So I don't know if there's a way to fix it. For me, it's just been a matter of until I see the movies, I'm not going to that back shelf. Now, right now, I don't have an option because everything's closed. So, I wanted to recommend just some movie stuff here too. Last night, I got Yvonne to watch Cabin in the Woods with me. I think she enjoyed it. I think she did. Cabin in the Woods, of course, takes the horror movie genre and just flips it on its head. And I did enjoy it again. Now, Cabin in the Woods, I watched a couple of times, and I have found that if you watch it multiple times, it's not as good because you know all the plot twists, so it's not as good the third or fourth time you watch it. But it had been long enough that I did enjoy it again. So I will probably get her to do a review on that because I think it would be interesting because it is kind of gory and she really doesn't like gory movies, so I'd be interested to know her opinion on that. Office Space. If you haven't watched Office Space, why haven't you watched Office Space? Go find and watch Office Space. Do it. Need to see Office Space. I'd have Idiocracy up there too, but I haven't found an online service in Canada where I can watch Idiocracy, so I don't necessarily want to be telling people to watch something that they may not be able to find. Not that I've seen Office Space on an online streaming service recently either, but Idiocracy's kind of optimistic now when you think about where we are right now. It's kind of optimistic about the future. Tommy Boy, the most quotable movie probably ever. That one's up there for me with Happy Gilmore as one that I quote regularly, and basketball of course as well. I mentioned basketball regularly for good reasons. And so yeah, those ones I recommend. No apocalypse movies. I know the apocalypse movies and the Contagion movies and all that. Those movies are popular right now. I don't get it. I don't. I really don't. I don't know if it's well that's actually better than what we're going through or what it is, but just I say stay away from it. Because we're still in this and we're probably going to be in it for a while. That being said, that does segue into my last comment here. Focus on the day-to-day. Models change. There are some models saying this could last for 6 months. There are models saying it could go for 18 months, 2 years. I've seen 3 years. I've seen models that say we'll be locked in our houses for years. Realistically, there's a certain period of time we can do this, and then it's a matter of, okay, we know what's safest, and we're going to go out and we're going to do our best to be as safe as possible, and we're going to try to open some things up and have people going out. Now, it does mean that we'll have some kind of limits, and again, this is still a very quickly unfolding situation that we're all involved in here, and at some stage we'll see some kind of a return to normalcy, but the actual complete return to normalcy won't be for a long time. But the economy on some level will open up a bit. The economy at some point that'll happen. We just, for me, I'm focusing on the day to day. So I get up in the morning and go, all right, I got to do videos. I got to do my job for people who are counting on that. And then, I make sure I spend some time with my wife every day and that we have that time together because that connection's important. And, make sure that I have that and realize models change. Even, any of them, they change. And they'll tell you, well, this is our model if we do nothing. This is our model if we do everything. This is our model if, and yet those models have changed from where they were a week ago. And some models that were adopted and thrown away are now being adopted again. If you focus too much on it, it will drive you completely mad. So for me, I'm just focusing on the day-to-day and doing what I have to do, which is limiting my interaction with the outside world as much as possible, and just again focusing on the day-to-day. There will be a point where something has to get done because there are certain necessities in life that are called necessities for a reason. So, just like I said, just do your best to focus on just every day. So you get up and you go, okay, it's Friday, and you go through your Friday and you do your Friday stuff, and then you go to bed and you get up and go, okay, it's Saturday, and you just, as best you can. And for people who are still working through this, it is a really tough time for everybody. And I have tremendous respect for frontline workers. So once all of this is past its peak, it's about the peak. Once we get past that peak and we start seeing some sort of just we can breathe a little bit. We're okay temporarily. Things seem to be, calming down. And until we have an actual vaccine or we have an actual treatment that we know 100% works. There are numerous theories. I've seen theories on vitamin D, theories on hydroxychloroquine. I've seen theories on various other items as well. And none of them, as of yet, have gone through the testing required for any governing body to say, okay, we're going to do this. So there's tests being done and working on it. The fact that the entire globe is working on it, I think, is really important. And so I tend to try to focus on the positive and on the fact that these models are going to change. And if they come out in a few weeks and say, hey, we've got this item, this item that works, this MacGuffin that's gonna potentially change the game, that'll change all the models as well. So I know how dark things look. I see it. No matter where you go, it's impossible not to see it. And I understand that people have other things to do other than watch YouTube videos. It looks like all YouTubers are seeing some kind of a drop, not just in the data of the on the revenue side, but as well on view counts, because people are busy doing other things right now. But I want to make sure that for people who are counting on that content's still there. So I won't pass on anything that's overly alarmist. I won't pass on anything that's all the doom and gloom, because Lord knows we have enough of that right now. Just focus on the day to day. And if you need any help through this, reach out. There are options, and there are people who are helping. And again, I mentioned this before. There are good news stories out there, and it's a matter of you may have to dig a little bit to find them, but they're there. And I think when we come out the other side, I think it'll be. I'm really hoping we all end up being stronger to this, because again, I try to be an optimist as much as possible. All right, there you go. Take care of yourselves wherever you are, whatever you're stuck in or stuck doing or stuck wanting to do and can't do. And remember, we are sort of all in this, not necessarily together because, distancing, but we're all in this. That's as far as I'll go with that in this video. So yeah, I really do believe we'll get there. I do. Scouts honor. I'm not even at Scouts. I don't even think that's the right. That's the wrong. Is it? No, that's live long and prosper. Vulcans can be Scouts, I think. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I will talk to you guys again soon. I haven't done the new reading with my wife because she's driving her daughter into Vancouver, but when she gets home, the plan is, I think, to do that. So that will probably be tonight. Thanks again. I will talk to you very soon.